Hello there. I am going to talk about the US election from the perspective of the cosmic backdrop through the lens of Vedic astrology. And I've shared this view with, friends, clients. I have a lot of former colleagues in the US. I worked for an American company for 15 years. I have a lot of current colleagues there too. And the perspective has helped them gain, and I think other people too, because let's be honest, this event is having great ripple effects around the world. And it's given a sense of deeper understanding, an objective perspective as to why things are the way they are in this very chaotic, confusing, divisive, intense environment. And I'm also going to talk in the next video and give you some practices around how you can stay more grounded through this period. And to be clear, I'm not going to predict who's going to win through the lens of Vedic astrology. I'm also not going to tell you who to vote for because that's none of my business. And I will, though, look at the charts and highlight some aspects of the charts of Donald Trump and Kamala Harris to put everything in context. So the first thing to say is that the United States has been under the influence of Rahu, the North Node, since 2015. Vedic astrology has a tool that allows us to look out into the future and into the past and in the present, seeing which planets, or which grahas we call them, which means grasper, because certain things we call planets aren't exactly planets, like Rahu and Ketu. Rahu and Ketu are where eclipses take place. And you'll have heard me talk a lot more about eclipses quite recently during the eclipse season. So Rahu is the North Node. We say that they're the shadow places in the sky where the moon's orbit and the sun's ecliptic cross. And we typically associate Rahu energy with a malefic energy. And in the mythology, Rahu is the head of the snake. Ketu is the headless body of the snake. And generally speaking, a Rahu planetary period, which lasts for 18 years, so it will end for the United States in 2033. Just also for clarity, I'm using the 4th of July, 1776 as the birth time of the United States as it currently is, which is the same as my teachers and other people have used. So the Rahu influence that the US has been under since 2015, and I think we can say that there was quite a shift at that time, is where we are right now. And so I could go a lot into mythology on this, but I'm just going to cut to the chase and talk about the influences of Rahu, which, as I say, are generally considered to be a time when more challenging, more negative, more enemy type karmas are going to be fruiting for that particular nation, for that particular person. And things that we associate with Rahu, we would say, are really connected with, let's say, testing and breaking traditions. Right, challenging the status quo. And I think it's fair to say that that was something that definitely stirred in 2015 and into 2016. And we could also say that this energy of Rahu is also connected with, justifying any kind of behavior, doing things that we know we shouldn't be doing and thinking we can get away with it. It can be very much connected with delusion and hidden agendas and disruption, very disruptive personalities, disruptive technologies, right? All of things that we've really seen emanating out of the US. But also Rahu is very connected with, like I say, breaking and testing traditions, sometimes because that's what's needed for positive evolution, right? Insight is another thing we connect with Rahu. Breakthroughs, especially after periods of difficulty. It can be a period of great, as I say, great innovation. And when there's an awareness around this influence, it can really help us shine a light on where we need to do the most work. And that can be collectively and individually. We all have Rahu in our chart. I should also say that wherever Rahu is for you in your chart, will really show a place where you're most likely to have a real kind of obsessive desire. Obsessive desire and obsession is really, a kind of drive for power and privilege as well, is something that we would associate with Rahuvian energy. And there is a sort of, shadowy energy, right? Remembering that these are shadow planets, that is connected to this influence. And so with all that in mind as the backdrop, and, you know, it helps us a little bit to understand why the kind of people that are currently presented as the two nominees for the next US president are who they are. I guess this is, as I say, the aim of why I'm talking about this, is to give an element of context and a bit of more of an objective view. Because it's very easy, as we can see at the moment, that there's hyperreactivity. Hyperreactivity, by the way, is also a very Rahu-related response, right? Not thinking before we act. And I think that's going to be a challenge over this next period. So let's look at the two candidates' charts now, or talk about them. Again, so you can understand why they are who they are. Why are these the people that are being presented, right? Because I think there's been a lot of frustration that, hang on, can there not be better individuals than these two, right? So the first thing to say, Donald Trump was born on a lunar eclipse. He has the sun, which is his ruling planet because he's a Leo rising. He has the sun with Rahu. Now the sun in his chart, it's in the 10th house, which as a placement gives the sun a directional strength, but being with Rahu, we would say afflicts it, right? And of course you can, go back to previous videos and you can look into the sort of energies around eclipses as well, which is when he was born. He is, we'd associate Sun and Rahu with real uber confidence, uber assertiveness, obsessive drive, a real tester and potentially breaker of tradition, right? And I think we can look at that placement in his chart to better understand why, even before politics, he was someone that was very visible in the US, right? Sun is also a significator for fame. And as I say, it does have some strength in his chart. It is his ruling planet. He also has Mars in his first house of, who you are, right? And Mars is the planet of, aggression and power and courage and risk-taking and all of those things. So that's the setup for Donald Trump. Again, his ruling planet is with Rahu, right? So there's a real Rahu influence there. Then looking at Kamala Harris's chart, she has Rahu in her first house. Now, the first house is the house of who you are, right? It is your stature, your body, your personality. So all of those qualities I talked about with Rahu really apply also to her, right? And there is a real drive there. We can see that. To complete the picture, she is a Gemini rising, so her ruling planet is Mercury. Mercury is with the sun in her chart, which is a good combination, but it's a little bit challenge for her because the sun is, we say, debilitated because it's in Libra, and also the sun is combusting, as in very close to her ruling planet of Mercury. They are in a good house, they're in the 5th house, but there is that sort of challenging energy as well around her ruling planet. And she is also running Rahu. Donald Trump is in his Jupiter period, I should tell you that. He became president at the end of his Rahu period. She is now running Rahu, which of course the United States is as well. So that just gives you a little bit of a sort of flavor for, who these people are, right? Or the planetary influences that are associated with them, to just kind of take a little step back and have a more objective perspective, right? Because of course there's a lot that has been said and talked about and highlighted about, everything surrounding these two individuals, right? So, and I guess one thing to say is that, Rahu has that ability to really divide. There is such division that is, and again, both of these characters have a real kind of love him or hate him kind of energy around them, right? So this is the kind of purpose of what I'm saying here, is to kind of give you perspective and to then talk about, which I will do in more detail in the next video, ways that you can stay grounded through this period. We would say Rahuvian energy in Ayurveda is the one that needs the most grounding. We would say it's the most associated with excess vata, which is that quality that dominates in the autumn time, that has us a lot more up in our heads, we could say, right? It's that space and air influence that really needs embodiment, that really needs us to focus in on good rhythms, on eating the right foods, on doing good practices to stay in a rhythm that really helps us to stay centered, because people are already being pulled in many directions. There is, you can see, of course, a lot of agitation around this event coming up. And really the challenge is for all of us to stay, as grounded as we can at all times, right? To just come back to that kind of attitude of peace and prosperity for all, because we're all here on planet Earth together. Whatever country you're in, whoever you're voting for, really, it doesn't matter. We're all breathing the same air at the end of the day. So the next video, I'm going to go into practices that are hopefully going to help you stay more grounded and just keep that attitude, and also use the opportunity to reflect and to, come to shine that light on where the most potent work that can be done through all of this, remembering there is that potential for really positive change to come out of all of this, right? That is always there. So I hope that is helpful. And I will see you in the next video for the practices to help you. Take care.